Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today I want to say, first off, Happy Thanksgiving to those of you that celebrate this holiday. Hope you're all having a wonderful time with your friends and family. I'm probably, well, I don't know, this video does go live at 4 o'clock in the morning, so I'm probably asleep right now. But yeah, I'll be tearing into some Thanksgiving food a bit later. So hope all of you that are celebrating Thanksgiving are having a wonderful day. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day as well. So today's video is kind of my first, I guess, guide video or tips and tricks video. You guys have been asking me to do this one. This one's in specific for quite some time, and that is tips and tricks, or just a general basic guide to German battleships. So I think this is going to be more of a tips and tricks video for the German battleships rather than an all-out guide, because when I hear guide, I think of a really well planned out video with lots of in-depth stuff, which I don't normally go too in-depth on this channel, because this channel is based more towards you newer players or you more casual players, and if I start saying some of the really in-depth stuff, you're just going to your eyes are going to glaze over, and because that's what I felt like when I was looking up stuff for Warships, and all I could find was really in-depth guides, which I didn't understand what the heck was going on. If you guys want to see that, I for sure will do that. Let me know in the comments down below. But for today, we're just going to stick with some basic tips on German battleships, and more specifically from roughly tier 8 up. I guess you'd say tier 7 too, because you played the Gneiss now pretty much like the rest of the line, and at least the way I do it, you don't do anything special for the Gneiss now because that's torpedoes. Anyway, I'll explain all of that in a second. So anyway, we're just going to do a couple of tips for you guys today, and some of you may know these, some of you may not. If you've been around for quite some time, you probably already know most of what I'm about to say, but if you just want some general tips and you're a newer player, just stick around for that. So anyway, in no particular order, let's go ahead and get going. So first, the easiest tip in a German battleship, and this is really in any battleship too, is never ever go anywhere completely alone. At least have a cruiser or a destroyer or another battleship with you. Preferably, actually, you want a destroyer with you. But I mean, if you can only have one, I would say try to get a destroyer to go with you, or go with the destroyer, because you'll be surprised the power of a German battleship, a well spec'd out German battleship. So like someone who has a higher point cap, like 15 points or more, or heck 19 points, why not just go all the way, and a well-coordinated destroyer player. That is probably one of the most terrifying combinations I can think of in the game, besides something like Smolensk, Worcester, and Minotaur division. But anything is just better than going out alone. So of course you can't get destroyed, because who am I kidding, and it's World of Warships. You'd be lucky if anyone will message you back in chat, let alone actually go with you. But anytime you get a ship like Grosse Kurfürst, Bismarck, Tirpitz, FDG, Ohio, even a non-German brawlerish battleship, or Republic, with a destroyer that's willing to spot for you and screen you for torpedoes, that is a terrifying, almost unstoppable combination. And on top of that, if you are going with just this one person, the enemy is going to have not only you to shoot at, but them to shoot at too. And if it's a destroyer, well, sure, they may want to take out the destroyer quicker, but it is a destroyer, so if they don't have a anti-DD ship there, they're going to have a bad time trying to take that thing out than having to deal with you in your battleship. And it's a wonderful combination, and in general, just never ever go anywhere alone, because if you do, no spotting, the enemy can literally run circles around you if they're in a destroyer, because again, we're talking about German battleships here, and they can be spotted from the surface of the moon. So I know it's really tempting sometimes to just kind of rush a flank on your own, but I promise you, like 7 out of 10 times, there's going to be a destroyer there waiting for you. And plus, yes, you are a German battleship, yes, you have good armor, but if you turn the corner and there's more than 2 ships there, you're going to have a bad time if you're alone. Now, if you're with people, it's certainly going to be a much better time. But if you're alone, you're going to have a very bad time. Despite all their great armor and any type of captain build you have on you, you will just go down if there's more than just than 2 ships shooting at you for, I would say, more than 2 minutes. It can happen, and it will happen. Don't go anywhere alone. Alright, so next up we have a very simple, well, I say it's simple. You'd be surprised the amount of people that don't really do this, but always plan ahead. You are in a very slow battleship, well, relatively slow. Yes, the Bismarck and the Tirpitz and the Gneisenau are faster than their tiers, but at the end of the day, the cruisers and destroyers, most of them are faster than you. So you always need to plan ahead, plan an escape route. After I go and turn this corner and try to punch the crap out of this ship, where am I going after that? And I still struggle with this to this day because I just get caught up in the moment. I don't have any plan. A wise thing to do in a German battleship is to just avoid open water at all. Like, at all. Just never, ever, ever go there if you're not moving with a fleet. Because what happens most of the time is that you'll be chasing this person down or trying to get them into a brawl, and while you may be chasing them down, they're just pulling you out further and further into the open to where you can just get melted by their team. And in many cases too, you have to be thinking, okay, if he rams me, what am I going to do? If he doesn't engage me in a brawl, what am I going to do? If he turns away from me, what am I going to do? Granted, if he turns, you can probably just blast the crap out of him, but do you want to show him that much broadside? Do you want to risk that? Do you want to stay bow onto him? These are all things you need to be thinking about. And again, you're in a battleship, you're slow, you have time to think of these scenarios in your head. And above all, it's also when you are brawling, do not, if you can help it, don't turn into them, because what you'll see most of the time is that two ships that will be approaching each other from opposite sides, and they'll get into this kind of swirling death fight where it's like you're trying to make a yin-yang symbol or something. You're kind of word pulling around each other. Don't do that. Because yes, again, you're in a German battleship, you have great armor up close, but if you turn to show broadside to them, you're still showing them broadside. Yes, you're really hard to sit off in close range, but when you're rolling that far back, it just makes it easier for them to hit actually underneath your citadel if you give in to that for one, for example. And also, if you keep turning, they and their team can just get more guns on you. And, well, not they can't get more guns on you, they have more of you to shoot at. Whereas if you just keep going straight, let them sail by you. If you haven't outright deleted them already, because again, you're in a German battleship, you have okay guns from close range, you have an opportunity there to just keep sailing on by them and just let your rear turrets finish them off rather than showing them your broadside trying to get your other two guns on target, because it's normally not worth it in those circumstances. And usually wherever they came from, they probably have some teammates there waiting to torpedo you or to engage you next. So if you turn to get your guns on them, you're showing that ship that you just brawled more broadside, and then their friends who are waiting to rush you, you're just giving them their, their ideal target. So don't do that. I've talked about that before, I believe with the Georgia, but don't ever do that if you can help it. Now there are some circumstances where you just have to do that. Just avoid that if you can. Okay. So next up is also a somewhat simple one too, and that is you don't have to always shoot the second your guns are ready, or the second something comes into range. Now this is especially true in Germans because, oh my god, from about 15 kilometers out, you really aren't going to be hitting much in a ship like any of the higher tier Germans. Even in the Grosser Kurfürst at maximum range, it's a bit better for dealing with ships at those ranges than the other Germans, just because it has 12 guns instead of 8, like the Bismarck and FDG. But you don't really need to be trying to hit those targets all the way out there at max range. You don't have to. Even if something's within like 14 or 13 kilometers of you, you gotta be thinking, okay, I'm in a German. Most of these shots are probably going to miss. Do I want to risk this shot? Do I want to risk being detected to take this shot? Now, depending on what the target is, the situation could be yes, no, maybe, or maybe you should just wait, see if you can get them in closer, or something like that. The ideal range for a German battleship, I find, is roughly 12 kilometers in. So roughly a little bit outside of your secondary range, and that's where your guns will be able to land reliable shots. The German guns are not like the Soviet battleship guns, where the closer you are to the target, they get more accurate. That's not how it works. It's just that the closer that you are to the target, you're just more likely to hit shells at that range. Even though I've had some shells missed from roughly 8 kilometers away in a tier 10 battleship. They went straight into the water when I was aiming at the guy's upper armor. Go figure. German gunners, too much beer. So you have to weigh the cost versus the risk. And if it's a broadside like Montana, Republic, Yamato, or any ship that has a relatively easy citadel, I would say maybe go for it if it's around the 15-16 kilometer range. I would not engage anything past 16 kilometers in any of the Germans, including Kurfürst, unless I just had to. Because of that range, I know most of these shots they're guaranteed to miss, unless RNG just smiles upon you and citadel the crap out of something. And there's no point. You're just going to get detected, and then everyone's going to shoot at you. And that comes in the second part of this tip, is that your armor is great at close range, but boy does it suck at range. A Kurfürst is probably one of the, Kurfürst, FDG, any of these German ships, they're easily pinned at longer range by other battleships and even by some heavy cruisers. Because your armor is just so chunky, it arms everything that pins it. So you may eat a 30,000 salvo at the start of the match, and I've done that plenty of times. And that's why, if you go back watch my videos when the carrier rework came out, I was super pissed about that, because that's like the most annoying thing to happen in a Kurfürst is all these ships start dunking on you from 24, 25 kilometers, and you aren't even in range yet, let alone you can't even really see them because the carrier's detecting you. And that is extremely aggravating. You just want to bide your time, wait until you can engage them at the range that you want to, and of course you will sometimes, a lot of times, especially in the current meta, be forced to engage targets at a further range just because of the current meta. And with the upcoming buff to German battleships, that will probably, it's going to tone it back a bit, because you'll be able to retaliate a bit better now since they are improving the ellipse, but it won't help that terribly much, but it's a step in the right direction for sure. Alright, so anyway, my last tip for you guys today is don't use the legendary module on Kurfürst. So the legendary module on Kurfürst, what it does is it decreases your main battery range to, I think it's like 18.1 kilometers. And on top of that, it does decrease your main battery reload and your secondary reload too. And I think it increases turret traverse a little bit. I just read it. I don't know why I forgot that. But anyway, so that's what it does. And in my honest opinion, I don't think it's worth it, because you are limiting yourself to 18 kilometers of maximum range. And a lot of you guys are now going, Mountbatten, you just said you wouldn't really engage anything past 16, so why not go for 18? Because sometimes you just need to engage something at 20 kilometers. You may be the last ship, and I've had this scenario happen to me more than, I would say, 30 times playing the Kurfürst, where you get down to just a couple of ships left or something just on the edge of your range, and you are just able to clip it in order to do damage to it, to either reset a cap or maybe just secure that last kill that your team needs to win the game. Because, again, the meta today is just range is key to everything today. Range and spam, and HE spam. So there was a time that I would have said it would be, I would leave it up to you, which ultimately it is up to you if you run legendary Kurfürst. I'm not saying I'm not saying it's stupid to do that. It's certainly not. I'm just saying I wouldn't do it, in my opinion, because again, sometimes you just need that little bit extra, that little tiny bit of range just to hang in there. And this is a tier 10 ship. Most tier 10 games you stay at 20, 21, 22 kilometers for roughly half the game before anything happens. And now, certainly when you move in with that legendary module Kurfürst, you would have an edge on brawling there against a normally armed Kurfürst, because normally armed Kurfürst can only spec secondaries, or they can kind of get the same effect that you get with the legendary module, but you can't have, best of both worlds like the legendary module does. You can really only go main battery or secondary battery, module build with the curve first there. So you would have the advantage there, but in most tier 10 games, you would just be, putting yourself outside of range for half the battle. Which, again, if you're willing to do that, it could work, but I wouldn't do it, just because so many battles are so passive nowadays. So that's what I think about that. So my last bit of advice for you today, I think I said that last one was, but I'm sorry I forgot this last bit. And this is an easy bit, which most of you should probably know this, is if you go up against a fellow German, aim for the upper armor belt. You won't get great pins. You'll get okay pins off of their main armor belt. But if you go for that upper armor belt just below the deck, you're going to get some great pins though. You won't citadel them, but you will clean off 25,000 damage depending upon what ship you're in and how many of your shells actually hit. But if you do that, that will certainly most certainly give you a leg up on them there. Unless it's a turret pitch, then organized on, they'll just torpedo you and laugh as they sail off into the... Alright guys, so that was my tips and tricks video for the German battleships. If you want another one, let me know. If you want a full guide to the German battleships, particularly the Grosser Curve first, let me know that in the comments down below. And again, this is aimed towards mostly newer players. I'm sure most of you guys that have had about 2,000 or 1,500 battles already knew most of this, but again, this is for you new guys that are maybe going up the German battleship line and just getting to those higher tier German battleships. This was for you, so I certainly hope that helped you guys out there. So guys, hope you're having a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.